Welcome to another episode of the Edmonds Mom's Room podcast. We are so delighted today to have Ericka Mccallister of Embrace Wellness joining us and helping us kind of see how we can embrace our health and continue this journey of aging gracefully. So, welcome to the show, Ericka. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm excited to get to know you and everything that you're about.
Thank you for having me. I'm very pleased to be here.
Awesome. Will you tell us a little bit about your business and yourself?
Yeah. Well, I was once an MD. I still am, still lives there, but I left medicine to take care of my son who 2 years old, and he had some higher needs. And so my husband being a busy resident as well, we just decided this was the best thing for our family, for me to stay home and take care of him. And so in my time away from being in medicine, I've always had an interest in health and fitness, but I've always had my own personal struggles with weight and being healthy. And especially after having 3 kids, my body just was not the same. And so I was constantly searching for programs and things to do and all these. In the meantime, I had always had this desire to get back into medicine, but from a different angle. One of the things that made a huge impression on me when I was in medicine was that so much of what we see coming into primary care or even the hospital, so much is preventable, so much sickness, so many medications that people are on. And early on in I think it was my first year of medical school, I had worked with an internal medicine doctor who, I kid you not, every single one of his patients was on at least 20 medications. And every time they came in, they had a symptom of something going on. And so he put them on another medication for that symptom. And I was just like, wow, is this what this is all about? And so when I was away from medicine and having my own, interest in health and fitness and always being really interested in nutrition, I did a lot of studying, a lot of reading, a lot of, learning about how we prevent disease. And it really comes down to lifestyle. So much of what we see coming into doctors' offices and what we experience as women, so many of the things that we all experience just as humans can be prevented with just, lifestyle changes. So I went to school at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. My desire was to get back into healthcare, from a health coaching perspective, educating providers as well as patients and supporting patients along their journey. And in the meantime, I've had my own health struggles, my own journey. And so in the quest to find, the best program for people, for myself, everything, I happened upon the Faster Way to Fat Loss. And I really just loved the program so much. And I became a coach as well. So I'm a private health coach as well as a group health coach with Faster Way currently. And that's where I'm at today.
Awesome. So, this is so cool. And I'm really excited to get to know more details about what you do. Of course, I follow you on Instagram and I love everything you have to say. It's perfect timing that I'm talking with you today because this past weekend I was in a class, which was all about menopause and premenopause. And it is so interesting how much of our experience of menopause and aging, just afterwards can be affected by modifiable risk factors and things that we can actually control. So It gave me my own personal, kick in the butt boost of motivation this weekend, but it's perfect timing that I'm hearing that I get to speak with you about all this. So thank you. It's great.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Did you say Faster Way to Health Loss? Sorry,
Faster Way to Fat Loss.
Okay. And is that a specific program that you're a coach of?
It's a group program that we run, and it's based on some core principles of intermittent fasting and carbohydrate cycling and tracking macros and some fitness principles. Really what it does for me is it's an introductory it's an introduction really to whole food nutrition. And then some of these other principles like intermittent fasting and carb cycling that can be really beneficial for certain people. I think one of the things that appealed to me about Faster Way when I first started was I had come from keto, and I was trying keto. Actually, when I went through nutrition school, I was trying all kinds of different things, just like, I'm going to be vegan this week, just to see what resonated with my body, because some people do really well on certain types of eating plans and some people don't. And that's really because of our bio-individuality. We all have a very different physiology, but for me, what it always came down to is whole food nutrition. And so how you put that together is really kind of dependent on you. So when I was doing keto, or attempting keto, I got really, really, really sick. I got, my thyroid was completely out of whack. My estrogen progesterone balance was completely out of whack. And it was really because I had eliminated carbohydrates for so long that my body was just like, my insulin balance was off the chart, just crazy. My sex hormones were just completely not working. My thyroid wasn't working because I didn't have any insulin, and I was just, all kinds of things. So, with Faster Way, what appealed to me was, just basic whole food nutrition, and then implementing some of these things like intermittent fasting. And for me, having thyroid issues, and this is what I deal with my clients, everybody's a little bit different. We hear a lot about intermittent fasting right now. There's a lot of information about intermittent fasting right now, and it looks a little bit different for everybody. Yes, there's protocols, and you can do it one way or the other, but really the best way to do intermittent fasting is how it works for you. And the reason that we implement intermittent fasting is not necessarily as a weight loss technique. It can aid in fat loss, but it's really to get your body resting, excuse me, so that it can do the hard work of repair. Digestive rest is super important for, rebuilding the lining of the gut, repairing other cells for muscle building, because when your body's constantly in that digestive mode, it doesn't get to build and do all those other things. So we implement it for that reason. And a bonus of it is that it helps with fat loss. And then the other thing was carb cycling. So coming from keto, I had in my head that I couldn't eat carbohydrates. And I felt like that was the only way that I was going to lose weight and all this stuff. But I was tired and I wasn't making muscle gains in the gym. I was, not feeling strong. I was not feeling fit. And what it really came down to was that I needed carbohydrates. But keto is really great for fat loss, and how we explain it to our clients is, keto can be really great for short-term fat loss, but in the long term, it can be really disruptive for hormones and other, like it can be really disruptive for the gut microbiome, for instance. So we implement a couple of days of low carb eating a week, and then the rest of the week is just, eating all those healthy carbs. And, we talk a lot about what a healthy carb looks like and why we need healthy carbs, and that the word carb does not equal pasta or bread and things like that. We need those other healthy carbs that, God put on this earth for us to be eating and using for, fiber and vitamins and minerals and things like that. So I loved that. And I also love too, because the other thing that I have seen and that I've personally experienced is that so many of us women think that we have to cut our calories way back and we have to exercise a ton. And that combo, in theory, we've been trained like that for so long to believe that, but it just doesn't work out for us physiologically. And so with Faster Way, I really learned to cut back on my workouts, work out smarter, not harder. That was also really appealing, and also something that works really well for my clients, to get them to slow down a little bit, and their hormones come back into balance a little bit. And there's a lot of aspects of the program that are really great, but the main focus for me is always whole food nutrition. That's how I always start every client off, whether they're a private client or a group client.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. I like to hear that. Of course, the best vitamins and nutrients come from food.
Yeah.
So as far as like, if someone was, let me put this to better words. someone who's been on every single diet, someone who's tried keto, tried paleo, has been vegan, has been vegetarian, just every single diet out there, the Mediterranean diet, every single, like, has kind of walked through that. What do you say? Like, how is this different, I suppose? Is this more of a lifestyle, or will you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, for sure. We all have, I think most of us have been on every diet under the sun, myself included. And what it comes down to is lifestyle. It's lifestyle and it's habits. And it's building both of healthy habits for a lifetime that is going to be sustainable. I think a lot of us are really searching for a quick fix, and it doesn't exist. There are the unicorns out there that have a quick fix and it seems like it works, but it really doesn't. If you look at things like The Biggest Loser, for instance, all those people gain back their weight because it's not sustainable. And really, if you're going to have sustainable health, you have to build lifestyle habits that can be that don't make you want to pull your hair out all the time. We can't live in a cycle of deprivation for life on end. We just can't live that way. And so building healthy habits based on whole food nutrition, based on smart exercise and moving your body, mindset around food, all of those things take time. And so what I'm always trying to help my clients to understand is that this is the kind of thing that takes time. When you change, you're going to first, we have to change what we're eating. Then we have to change kind of how we're eating. And then we have to change our mindset, and we have to work on hormones balance. And that's going to look a little bit different for everybody. But I think for all of us, getting out of that mindset that change happens like that, because it doesn't. This from working with your patients as well, is that it takes time and it takes work to change. And so when someone's really, really ready to change, those habits are more easily reinforceable. And so, but it's getting out of this constant deprivation diet cycle mentality that makes the biggest difference. So I do a lot of mindset work with my clients, because a diet is never going to work in the long run. It's just not, because the word diet itself, it has the connotation of deprivation, and I can't have this, and this is bad. But ultimately, when you learn moderation, when you learn how you feel when you have good food in your body, those things are motivating. When you know that you don't have to plan out 2 hours a day to go to the gym, because that's what's going to, make it so that you can eat later. All of these things is just reprogramming mindset, reprogramming habits, so that, us women, we can lose the fat that doesn't need to be on our bodies necessarily. We can have more energy to, raise our kids and take care of them and be with our families and just be ourselves, right? And we can repair hormones and get stronger and all of those things. And they just take time. And that's what I really love about all of the programs that I create, is that I'm getting people to understand that a 6-week plan isn't necessarily going to get you anywhere unless you continue doing it. None of us are really going to make the changes that we desire for just 6 weeks. Now, I run a 6-week program, but when I invite people into the faster way, for instance, I hope they stay with me for a really long time. That's why we have a membership program. That's why I've been creating some programs that are not faster way, that are my own, so that people will stay with me for a long time and really learn and develop the habits needed to have sustainable change and to feel better in the long run.
Awesome. Do you work with people during pregnancy?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, before pregnancy and during pregnancy and then after pregnancy, your body's going through so many different changes. There's the pre-pregnancy stuff, there's the during pregnancy stuff. And, postpartum is a totally different story as well. Breastfeeding and all of those things. And nutritionally, we can be supported in all of those phases. Really, and in all of those phases, we need to move our bodies. It just looks a little bit different during pregnancy, for instance. It looks a little bit different immediately postpartum. But the things that are really important is, learning the nutrition that is going to work for you and feed your growing baby, which is super important. We want to, in the pregnant woman's body, so many changes are happening, but ultimately so much is going into the baby. And so we want to make sure that we are nourishing that baby to grow and develop as amazingly as possible. And then postpartum as well. A lot of women are very frustrated postpartum because they don't bounce back to be their pre-pregnancy self, especially, with their first baby. They don't quite understand that it takes some time, and really the postpartum body is not meant to be itty bitty. It's not meant to be, our high school weight and fit into your skinny jeans. It's not, because you're still nourishing a baby, and you still are nourishing a baby for quite a long time. And your body that's what it's designed for. So helping women to appreciate that, but also just feel like themselves again. There's nothing wrong with wanting to feel a little bit like yourself again. And so that those postpartum frustrations are, they're a huge part of the journey, because, you want to be your best for your family and your new baby also.
Yeah. That's great. Oh, it's refreshing to hear you say that.
Yeah.
I have a question regarding, I think you have a really unique set of credentials, obviously, coming at this from a medical lens and healthcare provider lens, also as a mom, and also as a health and nutrition coach. So that combination is really cool. And you spoke a bit about, balancing hormones and that aspect of it. Is this something that you have women get tested, or are you basing a lot of it on like feeling and symptoms? Like as far as like what aspects of the healthy lifestyle work for?
Yeah, you can often tell a lot of what's going on with someone just by their symptoms. And if somebody wants to get tested, I can certainly facilitate that. A lot of people have gut testing, things like Viome and things like that. Other people go and they work with a naturopath, or they work with a functional medicine doctor, and they already know kind of where their hormones are at. And when they come to me, I work with a lot of people with autoimmune. So Hashimoto's is extremely common, and thyroid issues are very, very common. And most people that come to me already know that they've got thyroid issues or Hashimoto's. A lot of people come with vague symptoms though of I feel tired. So that could be anything from your thyroid's off to your hormone, to your, like, you really are just tired because you didn't sleep, or you've got some adrenal issues going on. And so oftentimes there isn't necessarily a reason to do advanced testing. If I've worked with someone and we're just like, I don't even know, I would encourage them to go to their provider and get testing. And one of my jobs as a health coach, and because I do have a little bit of a medical, I have my medical background, so I can know what people are, or what they're going to encounter when they go to their doctor, let's just say. I can help them facilitate the testing that they need, and to also advocate for themselves. So that's another big part of my work with people when they do need to go get testing. So I can definitely facilitate testing, but I really encourage people to work with their provider, because I think it's a group effort. It's a team effort. And I also don't want to be, working with someone and telling them or advising them to do something necessarily that goes against what their doctor really thinks. So I may not always agree with what the doctor says, but ultimately that's really, that's not my scope of practice. So I work with people. I can oftentimes identify where we need to make changes. For instance, if someone's dealing with a lot of gut issues, if someone is dealing with a lot of, if their periods irregular or something like that, we often start nutritionally anyway. Those are really the things that really we start with. I'm actually just reading Anne Louise Gettleman's book, Before the Change, and it's all about perimenopause, and she talks about all of these things that we do nutritionally to help support someone who is having perimenopause symptoms, and these are the things that I do anyway with my clients. So as far as testing goes, if somebody wants to get tested, I can definitely help with that, but it's not required.
Yeah, that's nice. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
As far as I've gotten to like see your passion a bit, but so I feel like you covered that a little bit. Is there anything else you want to touch on as far as like why you're passionate about this, or like what you really want to help change?
Well, honestly, I am such a I'm such a small fish in this big pond, but someone who I really resonate with is Dr. Mark Hyman, and his desire to like overtake the food industry. And I just see so much, pain being caused by the food that we eat. And so that's really like my passion, and I'll fully admit it's next to impossible with an almost 17-year-old and a 14-year-old and an almost 11-year-old to keep junk out of this house. But my desire is to educate them as to why the Captain Crunch is not great. Like, why don't you need that? Why are organic foods better? Like, what does it mean to have organic foods other than like what my son says? It just doesn't taste as good. I'm like, but why? You have no concept of why. But, bringing more awareness to people so that they can really empower themselves, like what is in your food? Why do you need to eat certain foods? And ultimately it's about feeling good and preventing disease for a lifetime. And so that's really where my heart comes with all of this, is that I don't want to see people struggling. I don't want to see people struggling and in the hospital and, dying of preventable diseases, heart disease and diabetes. But I also don't want us as women to continue to feel so frustrated, continue to bang our heads against the diet roller coaster, and continue to feel bad about ourselves because what the media says or what a certain fitness professional says or whatnot. My goal, and I have girls too. I have 2 girls that I want them to grow up and appreciate their bodies. I don't want them to ever feel like they have to be anything different than what they are. So that's really, that's something that I struggled with growing up and throughout my adult life, honestly, that I have struggled with body image. I've struggled with, not seeing myself as I truly am, or not appreciating my womanly body. And I don't want that for other people. And especially, for younger moms, I want them to understand that, you can be very healthy. You can be. But your body's not going to be quite the same as it was before you had babies. It's just not. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And so to help women to understand the progression of their bodies, and why our needs change, why our bodies change, and that it's okay, and accepting and having that mindset that it's okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's lacking. That's hard. All the things.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for all of us. It's a struggle. This time with quarantine has been a total struggle with me. I'm not moving my body as much as I normally have. I'm not eating as well as I normally have. It's tough. And it just all comes down to helping people to find their bigger why, and for me, stepping back, like, why am I here? Just like you just asked, like, why what's my bigger purpose? And we can do that for our jobs. We can do that for our personal lives. We can do that for any activity that we embark in. We can do that as moms, just like, why did I have kids? Okay, I have to remember, because sometimes it's not always obvious. And but remembering our bigger why, remembering why we're here, and remembering to give ourselves grace is another big issue. So it just takes time. And again, it's another thing that change takes time. It takes hard work, and it takes a willingness to change as well.
All the things.
All the things. Easier said than done. But that's why we're in it together. That's why I like being a coach, because that's really my job as a coach. That's something I didn't get to do being an MD. I didn't get to spend time sitting with people and just like helping them to understand what their why was, helping them to, learn how to meal prep so they can be healthier and eat healthier foods, helping them to learn to slow down or exercise differently. Those are things that really matter when it comes down to it for each of us individually. But it's so nice that I can do that and be someone's guide and collaborator and, educator a little bit, and just, the coach.
Yeah, that's so needed. And I imagine that you are going to be so busy as quarantine starts to lift, because oh yeah, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Go.
As far as like just even myself, it's like everyone's limiting their grocery shopping, and I'm so guilty. Like I go to the grocery store multiple times a week. I used to, and I just, because I like to get my whatever I'm cooking for in the next few days. I don't like to abundant shop or keep things, we just don't do that. And so it's been so challenging, going once every 2 weeks or so. And then the desire to be able to order out. And like, I can see these habits that have like creeped in that are so not ideal for what we've normally done. So I'm sure that you will have an abundance and influx of people over the summer
well, I hope so.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's so needed. You can know how to do all the right things, but without that support system, I think it's hard. It is hard. Yeah.
It's the comfort too. It's the comfort of all those things that you're talking about. And, right now in the time that we are in, taking comfort in some of those things is okay also. Taking comfort in being home, taking comfort in maybe not purchasing the same amount of or the same type of items that you would normally at the grocery store, because that's something that we're all seeking as humans right now, and just it's hard to be accepting, and it's hard to it's hard to always know what to do, but I guess living in the moment is all that we can do right now. And, I will say, given that though, it's hard once, at the longer that we've been into this, what I'm seeing with myself, I'm seeing with other people, is that, again, because we haven't been taking care of ourselves in the same way, we don't feel as good. And so that's a problem. And I think we're all kind of starting to realize, okay, we've been here, we've done this, we're going to be here for a little while longer. I can't keep doing this. And so what I love about group programming is because, and this is another reason that I got involved with Faster Way also, is that I can make health coaching and that accountability coaching and that education accessible to more people, because some people can't afford to do one-on-one health coaching, and that's okay. But I think that everybody needs it. And so that's why I really like the format of this program, where I can come in and, coach a group of women who are not only going to be supported by me, but supported by each other, which is super important, as women, lifting each other up in empowerment. and not comparison. That's something that I talk about too. Like, we're not going to compare each other just because we're in this group together. Everyone's going to have a different experience. And this isn't about comparison, like she hit her macros perfect and I didn't. Why? Like, it's not about that. It's about your journey. And, I also always tell my clients that the more engaged you are, the more you provide accountability to other people, the more successful you're going to be in your journey and building your own habits, because it's just reinforcing. So I just love that about group programming in general, that I can provide the service to people that might not normally have come to me for private coaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. So is part of the programming tracking macros or tracking your
Yes, it is. And initially, I think it's really, tracking macros is not for everybody, but I do think that especially when you're trying to change habits, it's a great tool to have. And so a lot of people, I get a lot of pushback, like, I don't know how to do this and everything. But I always teach that it is a tool. This is not something you have to necessarily do for a lifetime. It's just giving you some insight into what you're doing. If you have to write down your food, if you have to, keep track of it, it is another level of accountability. It's accountability to yourself and, accountability to me. And it's just helping me to help you build the habits that are going to be healthy for you. Are everybody's macros going to look the same over time? No. Not everybody is going to have the same. We kind of start everybody off in the same place and see where everybody goes. Does everybody need the same amount of calories? No. Does every person need the same amount of protein? It's just very, very individualized to you and what your body needs, what, your activity level and things like that. But more often than not, what I find with the majority of my clients is that once they do start tracking what they are eating, they're not eating nearly enough. And they are shocked and surprised at how much they actually can eat and how much they need to eat in order to start feeling better, start making strength gains if they are working out, start losing fat. And so that in and of itself with tracking macros is, I think, golden, because it really gives people some insight into what they've been doing and why it hasn't been working. So that's why I like to track macros. Again, I hope in the long run, after, working with me for, hopefully an amount of time, that that I can teach you to become more and a more intuitive eater. But again, that's another habit that takes a long time to build.
Yeah, interesting. I like that you just finished that with that, because I think that is so important to be able to listen to your body and really feed yourself what you need based on what you feel. But when you're in such a conundrum, it's sometimes hard to just know where you're at. And I do think that's I love how you just put that together. I think that's what's thing for a lot of people is like just a baseline to be able to eventually at some point have these healthy habits that you can just listen to your body to know.
That's my ultimate goal for myself. It's my ultimate goal for my clients. I find that I go back and forth. I know how to eat for my body, but I also develop bad habits and I need to go back and start kind of fresh again. And then there are some people that really don't ever get the tracking, and that's fine too. And I definitely have tools that, visual tools that clients can use. But again, it's still, I still like people to keep a food diary and things like that. But there are some other visual tools that we can use to make that tracking a little bit easier if someone doesn't embrace MyFitnessPal or whatever app they're using. So there's always a way to make it work.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I have one more specific question on my mind because it was brought up in my course this weekend, and I think it's really interesting how we're getting more and more research on intermittent fasting, and that doesn't necessarily mean going days without fasting. It could just be like time blocking, right? So eating 12 hours and then off 12 hours or whatever it looks like for you specifically. But I guess I would love to know it's cool that you work that into your program. And then I also just want to know specifically, selfishly, when you do intermittent fasting, is it not eating at all, or is it like black coffee and water? Like, what?
Yeah. So intermittent fasting, and the way that I start to teach it is basically we do it's a 16-8 protocol. Basically, you fast for 16 hours and you're fueling for 8 hours. A lot of people, and myself included, I don't fast for that long because I do have Hashimoto's and I don't want to throw my thyroid into whack or whatever. Everybody starts at about 12 hours. So that means if you stop eating dinner at 7 o'clock, you don't eat again until 7 o'clock the next morning. And then for some people, they gradually extend that to 16 hours. Some days look different than others. I have one client who has been so busy in the healthcare, and she was telling me last week, I just can't get my macros. I just can't. I was fine before all this and everything, but, I can't. And she was telling me how she's trying to eat at noon, but she has to wear a mask at work because she's a healthcare worker. And then she gets home and she's trying to get all her macros in before bed. And then she's not sleeping. And I was like, you don't have to intermittent fast. That's why it's called intermittent fasting. It's not fasting all the time. It's intermittent. So you are in a period of your life where your intermittent fasting is going to look very, very different than somebody who's at home and sedentary and able to, make it through a 16-hour fast. So with the intermittent fasting itself, so really it's just a schedule. It's whatever schedule is working for you. It's whatever schedule works for your schedule, whatever schedule works for your body, all of that. And then during the intermittent fast, to answer your question, we drink black coffee and tea, and some people like to put a little bit of something like nut pods creamer into their coffee. And so as long as it's under 50 calories, we accept that it's not really spiking insulin, which is the goal of the fast. So if it's something that is something like a nut pods creamer that is just fat, then it doesn't really cause an insulin spike in the same sense that something with fiber or carbohydrates in it would have. But yeah, water and all of those things. A true fast would probably just be water, but you definitely get the benefits of the digestive rest and the intermittent fasting with even something, even if you are having something like a nut pods creamer. So just a little bit. But yeah, I like to encourage people, if they can, to drink black coffee, to drink just water, tea, things like that. And if somebody could make it without any of the tea or the black coffee, that's even better. But for the most part, most people don't have an insulin response to coffee. Occasionally somebody will, and they can tell that by how they feel after they drink the coffee. If they get starving and things like that, they might have a blood sugar response. So we just have to work with that. But again, there is a ton of research on intermittent fasting right now. And really what they're finding is the research, a lot of the papers that I've read, the sweet spot for intermittent fasting is 12, 13, 14 hours. It's said that digestion happens for about 8 to 12 hours after you finish your last meal. And it's after you've fully digested the food that, in the hours after that is when you get the digestive rest and the fat burning effects and things like that. But the research really shows that, 13, 14 hours is plenty. And that really is, by the time you get up in the morning and you eat dinner, and by the time you get up in the morning and kind of do your thing, and maybe you have a late breakfast, and it's okay. So and the other thing with intermittent fasting, I think that really confuses people is that we're not skipping a meal. We are eating that meal later. We are eating, and this is another thing that a lot of my clients struggle with. They're eating more food in a shorter period of time. So we have to build up to that as well. The most important thing for me though, is always to get in enough nourishment, and the intermittent fasting comes secondary to that, because if you're not getting in enough nourishment, intermittent fasting can actually be dangerous. And you're going into starvation modes and getting into all kinds of things that we don't want to be getting in, that are also going to really jack up your hormones. So we don't want that either. So my biggest push for all of my clients is to make sure that they're eating enough first. And then it's like, you get to intermittent fast when you're eating enough, like you get to do that. I'm a little strict like that, but because intermittent fasting actually becomes kind of easy for a lot of people. Once they get used to it, it becomes pretty easy and intuitive. But it can, again, be dangerous if you're not doing it correctly. So that's why it's also good to do it under guidance.
Yeah, I appreciate that breakdown. Thank you for sharing that. I like the idea of like even just 12 hours, because really that's not that much to ask. Like, I feel like a lot of patients could even just do that, or a lot of people can do that just because if you stop eating at 7 and start again at 7, it's like you almost take out like your after dinner desserts and snacks, right?
Snacks. Yeah. And when I first started with intermittent fasting, I was like, okay, I am not having this snack at night because I don't want to wait until like 2:00 tomorrow. It just kept me accountable. It's like, okay, well, I'm supposed to be fasting now. So I'm not, because I was like a night snacker, and I'd go and snack after dinner and stuff. So I'd be like, nope, gotta fast. So it just kept me accountable to myself.
Which then just turns into habits, right? With the right amount of
Exactly. So lots of things.
Thank you so much for sharing. So tell us how people can work with you. You mentioned a 6-week program and then individual coaching. So will you give us a little rundown and maybe your website?
Yes. So currently I have the 6-week Faster Way to Fat Loss program that is a new client experience, and hopefully people will continue on into membership. What's included in that is the coaching, as well as meal plans and daily exercise that we do as a community, involving strength training and some HIIT training and things like that. And a lot of education, again, around all of these things. I personally educate my clients around gut health and hormones and metabolism and how all of it fits together. Stress and sleep, those are another big ones, especially right now. Everybody is dealing with the stress and a lot of sleep issues. So those are things that I personally educate my clients on. And then they have the option to go on into membership where they can continue having the, getting the meal plans and continue getting the daily workouts and a lot of other fun stuff. So that is one way to work with me. Another way to work with me is currently through my one-on-one coaching that I like to set up as a 3-month program where someone comes to me and works with me for 3 months on end. That usually looks like 2-hour meetings during the month and then unlimited access to me by email. And we really hone in on your specific program and your specific hormone needs, if you're having gut health issues, adrenal issues, and things like that. So those are the options right now. I am working on some shorter programs. I'm working on some other stuff, so keep an eye out for that. But you can get in touch with me on my website, and I'll give you the link, but I'll just say it's embracewellnesswithericka.com, and through Instagram at Ericka Mccallister MD.
Awesome. Cool. And we'll put that in the show notes too. So Thank you so much. This was so awesome. And I'm excited to know you, and I'm excited to send clients to you. I think this is so valuable. And I think your background, everything you have to say is just it's a missing link a little bit in what's out there in the health and diet industry. Not that this is diet, but just nutrition in general. So,
well, it is. And it's kind of, busting through a lot of those diet myths for the most part. I think, gosh, we've been bombarded throughout the 80s and 90s with, low fat, all of this stuff. And just people have gotten sicker and sicker, and we've gotten more and more confused. And I just like to bring it back to basics, bring it back to basics for all of us. We just need to eat food. We need to move our bodies. We need to, be conscious of what we do on a daily basis, how we feed our families and teach them the right habits. So
awesome.
Good.
Well, thank you. And you're currently taking new clients. Is that right?
Of course. Yes. Always.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I'm excited to share this with the world.
Thank you for having me. So fun.